Greetings gamers, today we're doing another OneNote DM video where I'm going to show you how to plan and run a campaign encounter from Microsoft OneNote. So let's dive straight into it and get started. You can see here in my test OneNote that I've set everything up that I need for this adventure. You can see that I've set up a section for Ashford, which is the area where my players currently are. And I've got my main page for Westkeep, the city they're operating out of at the moment. That has all my information on local NPCs, rumours, shops, everything like that. And then you can see here that I've got a separate page for each adventure. Now what I want to do first of all is I want to take these adventures and I want to nest them inside Westkeep because that's where they're taking place. To do this, you make sure that the pages you want to nest are beneath the main page in the order. If they're not, you can just drag them into order and then highlight the pages you want to nest, right click on them and make subpage. And what that does is it allows you to, when you click off, collapse the pages so that they don't take up so much space on the screen and you don't get quite so overwhelmed. But we're going to be working on Adventure 41, The Convoy. Now, this is an adventure I ran for my party 2 or 3 weeks ago. The main premise of the adventure is that the players are trying to stop a shipment of gold that's been brought back from the warfront, and they are trying to steal it for themselves and for their rebel cause. Now, what we want to start off with is a very rough plan of what I expect the players to do. So we'll start off with an introduction, and then once that's done, they're probably going to want to go and buy some potions because they already know that this session's adventure is going to be intercepting the convoy because they covered it in their previous session. So I know that they'll want to buy some potions, so let's put purchase potions, and then they'll probably want to speak to Barnston, the local lord, and ask him if they can get some help. So speak to Barnston. Then once that's done, they will travel to Whitebridge, which is where it's the one location they know this convoy has to go because it's the only crossing of a major river between on the length of the river. The only place that you can cross by land is Whitebridge. So they know the convoy has to at least go there. They have no idea where it's coming from, what road it's taking to get there, but they know it will eventually end up at Whitebridge. So they'll travel to Whitebridge, and then inevitably there'll be a big old fight, and then they can recover the convoy. I do this sort of really rough bullet point planning for every session. I will think of what my goals are for that session. So what major story beats do I want to cover? In this particular case, it's them getting the shipment of gold because it's going to help their cause. Then I will think about what are the players likely to want to do during the session, or what are they likely to run into. So they know they're going to Whitebridge to try and take this convoy. So they're probably going to want to buy healing potions, buffing potions, things like that. So I'll put in that they're going to go there. Chances are they will want to speak to Barnston because he is the local lord, and they are not shy about asking for help from NPCs. So they will probably speak to him, see if there's anything he can give to them or do for them to make their job easier. And then the travel to Whitebridge. Here is where you might want to use random encounters. Our sessions are fairly short, so I try to keep random encounters to a minimum because then they might get in the way of the main encounters. But if you wanted a random encounter, you could put it here. Then we go on to the main fight. That's where most of the session's going to take place, but it's where the least written planning will probably take place because I've learned over the course of the 40 plus sessions that I've run for this party now that there is no or very little point in me making detailed plans for a battle because the players never do what I expect. So at this point, I set up the board, as it were, in a way that makes sense to the enemies, and then I just let the players deal with it. And more than once, this session included, I was sure that there was no way the players could get around it, and I'm constantly surprised. And then finally, recovering the convoy. This has its own section because I expect that this fight will take a long time. So recovering the convoy might be a fight on screen, or it might be handled as an off-screen piece of prose after the session. Depends on how much we get done in the session, how much time we have left, etc. So the first thing we want to do is we want an introduction. So just click off there, introduction, and drag this over there, make it as wide as we want. And then what I like to do is, if there are things that I'm going to be saying to the party, I will normally put them in italics. So I've got some notes off to the side just to keep the video concise, but I put your party has been tasked bring convoy of gold and jewels. It's been brought back from Oxdorn. Oxdorn is the country in my setting where the dwarves live, and the human country my players are in is currently at war with them. So this convoy is riches that have been taken from a sacked dwarven city that's being transported back up to the capital of the country my players are in, and they want to intercept it and take the gold for themselves so they can help out their rebellion, because one of their main goals is overthrowing the current leader of the country. So the only place that the convoy has to be is the crossing at Whitebridge, because as I said, the southern part of Valoroth, which is my homebrew country, if I click over here, there should be a map. Yep. So you see here, this southern part is bisected by the river Adonis. And the only major crossings of that river, there's one in the woods, but that isn't feasible for an army to move through because of the terrain and the creatures that live in there. There's one in the barony of Ashford, but that whole barony has a wall around it and is unlikely to let any forces through. So the only place that the crown can move this gold is across Whitebridge. They don't know where the convoy will be moving through, what road it will be taking, but they know if it's coming by land, which it is, they know it has to cross Whitebridge. So that's where they're going to make their attack. So at Whitebridge. So that is where you have decided to make your attack. So I will read that out to the players at the start of the session and then basically say, so what do you want to do? And I'm fairly sure the first thing they're going to want to do is to purchase potions. So I might say you make your way across the city to alchemical appetizers, the local potion shop, owned and operated by Mervyn Castrix. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make that a heading, and then I'm going to copy the link to the paragraph. And then up here where it says purchase potions, I'm going to insert the link to that paragraph. And I'll do the same with the introduction. So just make that a little prettier. Copy link to paragraph. And then up here on introduction, insert the link. So now when I come back to look at this, I can click on the contents and go straight to the relevant section. But for now, the players are going to go see Mervyn Castrix. So we want a picture of him. So let's insert a picture and search for him. And there we go. We can put a picture of him. And then what we might do next is Mervyn Castrix. We might put a little bio for him here, just so that when we're running the session, at a glance, we have the picture of him, so I can describe him to my players, and then also a very small bio with maybe some of his personal traits, his likes, his motivations, anything I think might be relevant to the players in that session, I can put here in bullet points so that I don't forget it. So, Mervyn Castrix, I know that he is, let's put it as a bullet point, he is a gnome alchemist, but he's also a part-time tinkerer. He is friendly to the party. His uncle, or his great uncle, was their butler in another city. I know that he's obsessed with clocks and time, and that when the players arrive, he will be working on a pocket watch. And just little touches like that, like him working on this pocket watch, help make your NPCs seem that much more real, because the players arrive and can see he's in the middle of doing something. He's not just sitting there inactive waiting for them to come and speak to him. He's going about his day, he's building his pocket watches, he's doing his own thing. Another thing I know about Mervyn, based on previous interactions they've had, is that he will sell potions to them at 5 potions for the price of 4. Sell potions 5 for 4. And in terms of his stock, he will have the full list of level 1 potions, a smaller list of level 2 potions, and a total of 5 level 3 potions. Now those 5, I might decide that it's 5 Cure Serious Wounds, or if they ask for a different potion, a different level 3 potion before that, I'll say yes, but I know that he has only 5 level 3 potions of any type altogether in stock. Prices as per the player's handbook. Some vendors will have their own prices for things, so if a vendor is particularly friendly with the party, they might give them a discount. I'd list that here. Or if they are particularly hostile towards the party, they might charge them over the prices in the player's handbook. So I'd put that here. And what I will also do is I will get the link to the potions from the D20 website and paste it there, so that when it comes time to run in the sessions and they go to visit Mervyn, I can just click on that and get the list of potions and their prices straight away. Another thing I might want to put here is a little bit of dialogue. I don't normally script the dialogue for my NPCs. I like to run them pretty improv. I find that as long as I know the general touchstones of their personality and their motivations, I find it easy enough to improv their dialogue. But if I wanted to, I might put a little bit of dialogue here, and I might put, welcome friends, what can I get for you today? And that's just a little prompt for me to know the sort of thing, the sort of greeting that Mervyn might give them, and that just prompts me to get into that character. And to make sure I know that it's dialogue, I just highlight it a light blue so that I can pick it out on the page. And I think that is purchasing potions done. So next they will speak to Barnston. So we'll come down here and we'll put speak to Barnston as the next heading. So again, in italics, so that I know that I'm reading this out to the players, I'll put after purchasing your potions from Mervyn Castrix, you head across the city to Barnston Weatherby's Manor to request additional resources before departing for Whitewich. Now, I might read this verbatim to the party, or I might paraphrase. Let's just get that level. I might paraphrase it to them, or I might not read it at all. It might just come up naturally as part of play, but it's there if I need it. And that's what a lot of my planning style is putting things there if I need them. Because I run a fairly improvising I might not use this, I might not read it out word for word, but it's there if I need it, and that's how I plan a lot of my sessions. I put things in there just in case I need it, because I run quite an improv heavy game, but sometimes you'll lose your place and it's handy to just be able to take a quick glance and see where you should be. So I'll copy the link to the title up to my contents, and then same as Mervyn, what we're going to do is we're going to put a picture of Barnston and his key traits in. So all I'm going to do is copy Mervyn's section, delete his picture, and then paste in the picture of Barnston. And then just resize that so it's not quite so huge. Get it in place, and then we'll make their names big as well, just so we know what we're looking at. So this is Barnston Weatherby the Third. We will give him a heading. And then what do we know about Barnston? Well, we know he's a human lord of Westkeep. He's friendly to the party, and he was good friends with Greg, one of my players' characters who recently died. Good friends with Greg before he died. What else do we know? We know that Barnston is honourable. So if he tells you he's going to do something, he will do it. And we know that he is willing to send a unit of knights and extra horses with the party. And that'll be their goal of this interaction, is going to be to speak to Barnston and to basically end up with him giving them the unit of knights to go with them. And for dialogue, I might put something like, without this gold, the rebellion is dead. So that, looking at that, I probably won't say that word for word, but looking at it tells me that Barnston is going to be very to the point about the importance of them recovering this gold. Okay then, next we've got the travel to Whitebridge. Travel to Whitebridge. And you depart the city on horseback, accompanied by the unit of knights and horses. You follow the Donus River for 3 days, I think the travel time is. And we know the Donus River, I know they're going west. 3 days until you begin to see Whitebridge and the surrounding town in the distance. On the morning of Friday, the 18th of Nox, 1457. I might not read out the whole date to them, but that's more for my benefit, so that when I am organising my calendar later on, I know the day of this encounter. And we'll just make that heading again. And we want to copy the link to the paragraph and insert that there. And then we come to probably the most important part of the session, the lead up to and the actual fighting. So here I put, if the players have invisibility potions, if players have invisibility potions, they will probably try and sneak up to the bridge for a closer look. This is what they will. Nope, they will see some or all of this, depending on their perception roll. And I've put depending on the perception roll in brackets, and I'm just going to bold that so that I'm telling myself when it comes to this point, if they go invisible and try and sneak up, I know that I'm going to need a perception roll from them. So the next thing I want to do is I want to put a copy of the map in. Now, I run my game in Fantasygram, which is a virtual tabletop program, but this will work if you're running your game in person. If you hand draw your maps, just snap a picture of them and drag the picture into OneNote, that'll work. Or if you lay out tiles or however you do it, if you're doing it in person, lay it out, just snap a quick picture of it, drag it in here, and you can do what I'm about to do easy enough. So I want to insert picture from file and then find the relevant image. There we are, there's the map. And I want to drag that out to be of a decent size. Now my players have been here before, so they know the layout. So I don't have any problem with sharing this whole map with them straight away. If this was the first time they'd ever been here, then I would reveal the map to them little by little and have them make a series of stealth rolls versus enemy perception. But because they've been here before, they're aware of the terrain, they know where they can go to avoid being seen from the bridge. So I will only require them to roll stealth checks when they get right up to the bridge. So they'll be able to see this whole map and some or all of the enemies on it without having to make rolls because they've been here before. But what I want to do now is I want to plan out where the enemies are going to be, because in this particular situation, the enemy knows that the convoy is coming, and they know that the party, the rebels, are probably going to try and stop it. So they'll have put additional security here and reinforcements. And the party has had a fight here before, so they will be vaguely aware of party composition and their capabilities. So this entire encounter is both in a meta and an in-game sense designed against the party. That's not normally how I design encounters. Normally, it's the enemies are what they are. And if they're good against the party, or if they're bad and weak against party abilities, well, that's just how it goes. But because this is a encounter in which the enemy is aware of the party previously, they will bring certain things to bear specifically to combat the party. So all I want to do is click off to the side, and I will start with some Black Shield cavalry ×2. And what I'm going to do with this text is I'm going to highlight it yellow and then drag it onto the map. And that is how I am going to let myself know what the party will be facing. So resize that. So there's going to be a pair of Black Shield cavalry off to that side, and I want another pair over here. Then what I want is I want some archers, and the party have gotten to the point now where putting individual enemies down on the field is just not good enough. They're not doing any damage to the party, and as I said, the enemies in game are aware of this. So instead of sending 2 or 3 archers, now they'll send 40, because we've been playing for so long now, and the players are reaching a power level where the enemy are willing to commit greater resources to try and ensure that they're killed. So what we want to do is we want to put archer troop ×2. Archer troop ×2. And 1 is going to be hidden. The last time my players came to this area, they were going to blow the bridge up. They planted explosives underneath the bridge, but didn't end up detonating them because there were civilians on the bridge. So there's a good chance the enemy would expect that again. So what there's going to be is there's going to be units of archers. 1 troop will be stationed above the bridge, but then they will have also built a temporary scaffolding underneath so that another archer troop can be down there ready to shoot any players that try and come up from below. So they'll have 1 of them on each end, and then soldier troop as well. Put a pair of soldier troops here, and there we go. And we'll put them there, and another one there. Bear in mind, the enemy doesn't know which way the party are going to come from, so they would reinforce both ends of the bridge just in case. And the enemy is going to know that there's a fairly powerful wizard in this group, so they will send a wizard in return. The Black Shields in my setting are an elite unit of troops that the players have discovered are all undead, or there's something undead about them. Some of them seem to be spirits, some are skeletons in armour. So they are quite deadly foes, and the wizards in particular. They have a lot of nasty spells. And I'll also put a general on there. And then the cage that previously held the NPC that my party tried to free from this location is still on the map, so we will put in some civilians, because these are the bad guys after all. They wouldn't have any qualms about caging some civilians right in the middle of the bridge to act as a deterrent from the party just throwing fireballs at the bridge and destroying it, because that's the most sensible thing for the party to do, is to destroy the bridge to deny the convoy moving over it. So they'll want to blow the bridge. Obviously, the enemy knows this, so they're going to put some civilians on the bridge to stop that. So they'll put those civilians in the cage. And I think that's about it for the enemies. That gives us maybe 80-something individuals on this bridge. So from a story standpoint, that's pretty reasonable. 80 soldiers holding the bridge. It gives us 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, 14. 14 different individual units for the party to fight against. There's some cavalry, some infantry, some archers, a tanky general, and a wizard. So there's a nice mix and balance of enemy units to use different abilities and different types of attacks to play against the party's strengths and weaknesses. So now what we'll do is we will plan out the fight itself. So fight. And I know that once the battle begins, the enemy will be expecting the party to blow up the bridge, because they've tried before. So the archers that are posted on the temporary scaffolding are going to shoot anyone that tries to fly up, because there are several flying members of this party. Archers beneath the bridge will target anyone trying to fly. The Black Shield Wizard will focus on Icarus, who is our party's wizard, trying to take him off the field as quickly as possible. What this means is that Black Shield Wizard, who's got some nasty spells, isn't going to hold back. The players have been made very aware how dangerous this encounter is, and they know that it's likely that they'll face fierce resistance. So this wizard's not going to be holding back. He's going to be casting really nasty spells, and if the party wizard isn't prepared for that, there is a good chance that he could go down. But this is the plan the enemies have made, and the party are vaguely aware of the types of things they're going to face, so hopefully they'll plan accordingly. Next, the general and his cavalry will charge Baydar and Grak. Now, Baydar and Grak are probably the two heavy-hitting melee characters in the party, and they both have quite a reputation. Baydar is a Dragonborn, and the Dragonborn are illegal in this setting. They are wanted throughout the realm, and Grak is a Gripply barbarian, and he's well known for having tried to assassinate the leader of a city they used to be in. So they're both well-known individuals. They're both very renowned for their combat expertise. So the general and his cavalry are going to make them a priority. As soon as they appear on the field, whatever the general and these cavalry are doing, they will break off and go for them. What else? The remaining archer troops will focus on Ao, who is the party's monk. They will have heard about how difficult Ao is to hit in combat because of her insane monk AC. So instead of trying to fight her hand to hand, they will overwhelm her with arrows. And finally, the remaining Black Shields and infantry will focus on Kalen and Volo. Kalen is the party's summoner and Volo's his Eidolon, and they are really newcomers to the party. So the enemy doesn't have a lot of information about them. They don't really know what the full extent of their powers are. So they will consider them somewhat of an afterthought and prioritize the others first. That's probably a mistake on the enemy's part, but that's how they will approach it, because they don't know a lot about these two individuals. And then what I want next is a list of the combatants, and what I'll do here, troop, Black Shields, General, Wizard. Let's just make those headings. Now what I want to do here is I want to put links to the D20 entries for each of these enemy types here, so that when I'm running the combat, I can just scroll down, click on each of them, and immediately I'll know what their stats are. So let's start with the archers. So I'll copy the link from my web browser and insert it into there. And let's do the same with the infantry troop. And the same for all the others. So with those linked, it means that when I'm running the combat, I can click on them, open a separate window, and see straight away what their stats are. Rather than putting all the stats here and having to scroll through them, I like to have them off on a separate page so that it doesn't interrupt the flow of my plan. So we will copy the link to the fight paragraph and then paste that in there into our contents. And then finally, recover the convoy. And the convoy is approaching, and if the players aren't fast enough, the convoy will reach the bridge. So what I will probably do during the session is to use timers. So the players are going to arrive at Whitebridge, see the enemies, and then players being players, they'll spend half an hour or more planning their attack. So as soon as they see Whitebridge, I will start a timer, and that timer signals how long they've got until they'll see the convoy off in the distance and know that it's now or never. And it just helps speed the session up a little bit and stops them spending so long overthinking things. If they attack the convoy, it will speed towards the bridge, which means that if they want to set up an ambush for the convoy without dealing with the forces on the bridge, the convoy will make a break with it, make a break for the bridge, sound a horn, something, and they'll have to deal with enemies on both sides. And the convoy is guarded by 6 Black Shield cavalry and 2 units of spearmen, 1 each end. Now, I expect the majority of this encounter, this session, to be focused around the fight on the bridge. So the actual recovery of the convoy in terms of planning is really light. because if there's time, I will run through the combat of fighting the guards of the convoy. But on paper, I know that the party will have no problem with the 6 cavalry and 2 units. It's very unlikely that they'd lose. So if there isn't any time to run the fight fully, I'll handle it off screen and maybe write a piece of prose just to cover it and to describe what happened for the actual recovery of the convoy. But we'll copy the link to that paragraph, paste it up here, and that is pretty much a session planned. So to recap, I start by doing the broad points that I want to cover in a session, and that later becomes my contents. Then I'll go on to an introduction. This is usually where I will catch the players up on what's been happening. So if they have heard any rumours, I will mention it in the introduction. If any notable events have happened, or there's weather they need to pay attention to, or it's a particular time of year, anything like that, covered in the introduction after the players have recapped the previous week. I always get my players to recap the events of the previous session themselves, both to encourage them to be a bit more active with their memory and remember things, and so that I can pick up on things they've missed. So if week after week after week after week they're missing the same sort of thing, then I know I'm not communicating that clearly enough to them. But in the introduction, I will set the stage for the session, let them know where they are and if they've decided what they're doing. If they haven't decided what they're doing, I just let them know what they are and then ask them what they want to do. And then I will think about a few of the things that I expect them to do. So in this case, I expect them to purchase potions and to want to speak to Banston. So I'll plan that out, put pictures of the relevant NPCs, information about them, and any rules and dialogue that there might be. If you like to plan out more dialogue, then obviously these sections for you are going to be a lot longer. You'll have to think about what the players might ask the NPCs and plan responses. And then the bulk of my planning goes into the main fight for this session. If there's more than one fight for a session, then you do this as many times as you have encounters for. But as this session has one major encounter, I've put in the map. I use highlighted texts to place where the enemies are going to be at the start of the combat. That's not where they're going to stay. In the fight section, I plan what each of the enemies will do based on certain circumstances. So if you have an encounter with a bunch of goblins, you might want to make a note that if someone throws a fireball, that might spook them and they might all run off because they're a low CR creature, or what have you. Those are the sort of things you want to take note of. What the enemies are likely to do, who they're likely to target, and what would make them break. In this instance, these soldiers and these enemies aren't going to break because they've been selected specifically. And then finally, I will link each of the enemy types to their D20 page so that I have the rules ready to go at a moment's notice. And then I finish off by just listing the end of the session. So the end of the session for this is them recovering the convoy. But I hope that has helped you see how I plan out encounters and sessions in OneNote. If you have any questions at all, drop them in the comments below and I'll try and answer them. And if you have a different way of planning your encounters within OneNote, drop that in the comments below. But until next time, happy gaming. Thanks for watching. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below for new content every single Friday. And if you want to keep watching, well, there's another couple videos for you to watch just over there. Happy gaming.